Hello, world. Welcome to the fourth episode of the RPA show. I'm joined today by two very special guests. But before that, today's episode is brought to you by Nexbotics. Nexbotics is a managed service provider for robotic process automation. They provide professional services to suit your business rules to the letter with a simple to use portal, allowing you to interact with bots and monitor the return on investment gained from automation. They're also lowering the barrier of entry for smaller businesses looking to automate their processes, with pay-as-you-go transactional and consumption-based pricing, avoiding the need to fork out thousands for RPA licensing and RPA developers. And for more information about Nexbotics and what they can do for you, head over to nexbotics.com or get in touch with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, any other links in the YouTube description below or on the podcast description. So we're joined today by Mihai and Julian from Procesio, and they're going to talk to us a little bit more about their business today and their work in the automation space. So very warm welcome to you, Mihai. Very warm welcome to you, Julian. I guess I just want to start out by getting an idea of your individual backgrounds and how you got into what you're doing today. Maybe starting with Mihai.
Hi, Nick. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for having us today here. Some things about my background. I'm an engineer. I'm a self-taught programmer, and I've been building this business since 2011, so 10 years now. And inside the business that I run, we created a new division, which is called Procesio, which is the no-code, low-code, and full-code integration platform as a service, which actually came out of the actual need that we felt for us and for our clients.
Fantastic. And big up to the self-taught programmers as well. I'm also a self-taught programmer, so it's really nice to see somebody else flourishing in the space. That's fantastic. And Julian, welcome to the show. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and your work at Procesio?
Yeah, I've joined Procesio earlier this year in spring on the community side. So I'm working to grow a community around our product and really just let people know about the good stuff that we're building here. Our approach is international. So I have some international background with startups in the Netherlands and in Spain. So it just made sense to join Procesio at this time, also because previously I worked in other technology startups. They had to do more with AI, so it was more on the AI side, but it was still software. So that's why I'm here. And also because the team is ambitious and believes in what we do. And that's what has attracted me in the first place.
Yeah, fantastic. That's half the battle, right? If everyone's passionate and believes in what you're doing, then you can only do good things. Awesome. So tell me a bit about the problems you're solving then. So what do you think Procesio brings to the table? Probably a question for anybody really, in terms of how it can solve a specific problem and meet a certain need.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Basically, we have three pylons that we are supporting our business. The first one is the fact that we are integrating applications, software, whatever software, based on APIs. So if you have disparate software within your organization, and for sure you would need a way to connect those softwares. And that's because at the moment, in most of the companies, the only thing connecting the softwares within the company, it's actually humans, and they're doing it manually. And that's why actually the automation space has appeared and grow so fast. The second pylon that we have is actually automation of workflows and processes. Because you have access to the information from those softwares, you need flows to be automatic between those softwares without human intervention. And the third one is processing data, because actually connecting to software, you have access to the data, and that data needs to be transferred, needs to be processed in order to actually have processes, workflows, and automation in general. So this is what we actually do.
So would you say you're mainly focusing on bridging different applications together?
Yeah, mainly that's it. But also we have some other aspects that we are addressing, because our vision is to slowly move towards the application building part. And currently the integration platform that we have is basically, and we see it as a base for what is going to come next. And basically you would be able to use Procesio as well. Besides the integration part, you can use it as a backend or middleware for your software. So basically you can build visual interfaces on top of Procesio, regardless if it is web-based, mobile-based, desktop-based. You just can build that on top of Procesio without needing to have a backend for your software. You don't have to mind the fact that you need to build scalable microservice distributed backends. Just use Procesio. And also we're slowly moving towards that.
Okay, so there's I guess there's two sides to the development aspect. I guess it's like a form builder for the front end element that you can then overlay.
We do not yet have a front end. That's why we are positioning ourselves as integration platform as a service and backend and middleware for your software. But soon we will also have the front end capabilities.
That's exciting. So I'm drawing some parallels with some of the Microsoft Power Apps stuff that's currently out in the space. It sounds very familiar, but it does sound very exciting. This idea that you can sort of bring together lots of different existing applications to something new and bespoke. I think it's quite a challenge. Tell me about some of the bigger challenges you've had getting to this point and sort of how you overcame them.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we had was the fact that we wanted to deliver much functionality, many features. We wanted to move faster towards the low-code application building market. But soon we realized that in order to build a stable platform, you need to pace yourself. You need to listen to what users have to say, what do they need, and by the market. And that was the most challenging aspect, to find the right balance between speed, quality, and demand.
And maybe this might be something that Julian can attest to, but how much of an influence has the user base had on Procesio? Has it been a big part of your development roadmap?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, we have a community-based approach in growing our product. We do our best to listen to the people that get on the platform, that test it, that try out different kinds of workflows in their accounts. And I think it's just many more businesses in the no-code, low-code space today, and not just this. I'm realizing that the community-based approach is probably better than traditional marketing in some aspects. It definitely works for us, and in this industry, in this time and space, there's a lot of people that believe in honest communications of a business, and that's kind of the approach that I started with. Really just talking to people, listening to people, seeing what they have to say about a new tool that they're trying, and see how we can answer. It's not always easy, obviously, because when you have hundreds of people coming in on a platform, it's going to be a challenge to be able to please everybody. There's going to be harder times and probably more pleasant times, but all in all, I think community-based approach really brings most value when creating a software product, because that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And so that's been my challenge, really, just talking to people and slowly getting them to know what we're doing. It's still a challenge actually right now, because we are at the stage where we want to demystify the platform. So we're working on use cases, showing people what they can actually do with the tool. I think that's a challenge right now. People don't really know exactly in which cases to use it. Is it really an iPaaS? Is it really a no-code platform, or is it an RPA? Because we also mentioned RPA in some of our posts. So what are the cases, right? That's the question that I'm trying to answer now and in my conversations.
Yeah, it's quite a familiar issue. It's something I've seen quite often in my work in RPA, is that it's very difficult to get across sometimes what I use the concept of bots. It's the most common way of referring to them. It's very difficult to get across what that is, because it's very, as you said, it's very difficult to demystify that. When you say, oh, the bot will take this process and run, X amount of processes on top of it, unless you can show it to somebody, it's really difficult to do, which I guess brings me to my next point around how you've templated a lot of these things. Have you been able to get to a point where you can very quickly demonstrate an automated process, or is it still very much a you don't really get to understand it until you build it yourself sort of situation?
The answer is not quite straightforward. I think we built our platform in such a way that is very well designed for a technical mindset, especially. So basically, if you're not a technical person, it will be quite hard for you to understand how to use the process, how to use Procesio and build processes and automate and integrate things. But if you are a technical person, you will already know what that API, what's a data model, what's a variable, and how data flows through a process. And it will be easier. It will be quite familiar. That's one of the feedbacks that we get, that it is very familiar to them as a software developer, because actually what Procesio is, and you could look at it also from this angle, it's a visual development language, right? So it's going to be familiar for the technical mindset people. But if you're not a technical mindset people, it doesn't mean that you will not be able to use it, but you will have longer time to adjust compared to the other guy, which is technical in nature and in experience. But for that, we already have tutorials that guides you through getting started and how to build your first process. We have a very well-designed documentation that basically covers everything that we have launched. We first of all document and then launch. So make sure that we have everything documented before it gets into production. So that's covered. Wow. And as well, you have our support. So as you probably know, working at an RPA company, it's very hard to achieve that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's hard for any software development team to get into the discipline of actually documenting before you release. Can't tell you how many times I've had to sort of jab my developers and say, come on, guys, we need to document this. Even for myself, actually, I'm guilty of it as well, of releasing things before they're documented. And so that's really positive that you're running on that policy of making sure everything is accessible to people before it's released. I'd be really curious to understand if there's any extensibility aspects to Procesio. So obviously it's very similar to other automation providers in the sense that it's largely catered towards or targeting a technical person. So people like UiPath or even Automation Anywhere to a certain extent are largely focused on technical people. But obviously those solutions offer the ability to extend the solution in a certain way. So in UiPath, you can create specific custom activities, for example. Is there anything similar in Procesio, or are there any plans if not?
Yeah, it's something, this is our mindset. This is our, the core thing that we are driving our development upon. So basically we are even building Procesio using Procesio, and that is very powerful. And we have what we call custom actions. Is something very similar to custom activities in UiPath, but is way more easier. It's like 90% easier than building custom activities in UiPath, and that drives productivity. And the way we are designing our platform is in such a way that if the user does not have a certain functionality, he will be able to create it themselves. So that's the vision that we have, so that we do not become the bottleneck as a vendor.
That's fantastic. Yeah, yeah. You've taken a leaf out of Microsoft book, I think, because the fact that they've built the Roslyn compiler for C# in C#, and that has always been really impressive to me because the productivity gains you get are staggering. And so you've taken a very, very similar approach there, and that's really awesome. I like that. This idea of building your app with your own app is really cool. And so going forward, then, obviously, you've talked a little bit about the roadmap and the vision going forward. Maybe in terms of the wider industry, what sort of things do you anticipate becoming more important? Are there any emerging trends that you think you're going to need to start tackling as time moves on?
Yes, I think the most important trend that we're tackling, and basically that's one of the main reasons for which we started building Procesio, is the fact that software developers are scarce and the software development needs are growing almost exponentially. So basically, before 2020, before COVID struck, the growth for software development demand was like 20% per year. Starting with 2020 and including in 2021, the growth of software development demand was like 40%. So this trend is going to continue. And that means that the gap between the actual software demand and the actual resources that are available for delivering the software is growing bigger and bigger. And the only way to close that is actually provide a way for technical people, which are not software developers, to create apps, and also to invite less technical people or even non-technical people, which is very challenging, to participate in creating apps. And this realization drove us, actually, like this was one of our main reasons for which we started Procesio, right? And this is one of the aspects that we are trying to achieve, to close this gap and invite people to take part in building software, in building automation. And another aspect is actually the fact that the growth of the software development demand, it's actually growth in the demand for automation. Actually, software demand is not just to create like ERP, CRMs, and things like that. It's actually to automate manual work that is done currently by human. And that's where the growth comes from, the growth in software demand. And that's another trend that we see coming. And that's why we have decided to address first this integration and automation of workflows, because this is the majority of the demand where it comes from, right?
Yeah. So what would you say are some of the more common integrations that you guys have? What are the integrations that you think you guys are really good at?
There are many. First of all, Procesio, it's industry agnostic, right? So this is very important. But the second aspect is the fact that we are coming from power and gas industry. So we are very familiar with that. So even though Procesio is very agnostic, so it doesn't care which is the industry that you are using it for, we have a lot of knowledge in this industry. So basically connecting ERPs and CRM in this area is very easy for us as professionals. But for Procesio, we have done use cases in connecting ERPs in any industry, CRM in any industry, e-commerce platforms, regardless of the industry. Connecting to basically any data source and any application that offers an API. And this is one of our core requirements. In order to use Procesio, you need to have an API for that. And that's also a differentiator towards compared to RPA, right? Because we cannot automate desktop apps, for example, right? But if you have an application which has an API, and you need the integration and the automation to be extremely fast, then you would use Procesio, right?
So Procesio could essentially become part of a wider RPA project, couldn't it? Because you may have, say, for example, a bot which is doing the desktop automation or the web automation, and then you get to an integration element which then brings in the Procesio elements. That's really interesting.
Exactly. We are complementary to what RPA is offering in general, but also you could look at Procesio as a way to orchestrate your bots. We have seen situations where companies are using RPA without having an orchestrator for various reasons, but we also have seen companies that have bots from different vendors, and you will need a way to orchestrate and coordinate bots through all vendors, right? And that you can do with Procesio, for example.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so a consolidation of multiple RPA technologies. That's quite cool. I quite like that. And so we did talk a little bit about how you differ from RPA specifically. I'd be really interested to understand how you differ from your competition. So I don't know if this is accurate, but I sort of get the idea that maybe your direct competitor would be Zapier, maybe. Simple, maybe yours is a bit more complex, but I don't know if it's something.
There are many similar things to Zapier, but also on the competition board you can see also Integromat or Parabola or other companies like that are doing integrations and automations of workflows. But as we position ourselves in the iPaaS, you could also look at Boomi, Informatica, and other companies in that space as well. But the core differentiator is first of all our approach of giving full power to the user to build his own tools. If we lack a certain tool, then he would be able to build it himself. The second one is actually our vision, the goal towards we are moving. So basically we are moving towards building applications. And for that reason, our infrastructure is different, our experience is different, it's much easier to build. One, just to point out some things, like Zapier has like 2,000 integrations pre-built within the platform. But if you need the 2001, that they do not have, you will be stuck, right?
Yeah.
Compared to us, you can integrate with whatever application you want. Sure, we do not have the 2000 integrations pre-built, but you can create yourself whatever you need, right?
That's where the technical element comes in, isn't it? That's why the audience is different, because it's someone who has the ability to make those more bespoke changes.
Exactly. And one question that you had earlier was regarding templates. And this is another thing that we are tackling. Basically, now that we have the capability to customize your own integration, your own connection, your own process, however you like it, now we give you the possibility of having templates, and you can create your own templates, but also we have pre-built templates that you can use out of the box to integrate with different software, right? Cool. So you already have that, and we are catching up with Zapier and other competitors in terms of pre-built stuff.
I'm glad to hear it. And does that feed into your work, Julian, with the templates? I mean, do you often take a lot of suggestions from the community, and then does that become part of the template building process?
Yeah, it's actually work in progress. Templates are one of the things that I can't wait to offer to people. We'll be able to offer them, I hope, from January. And once that's out there, I think it's going to open up a lot of more paths for people to understand what they can build. Because right now we have some examples, so we have some use case examples. We've built some processes. You know, you can watch some videos on how it works, but you can't yet use templates like go inside. Okay, here's your template. Go inside Procesio and adapt it or use it as it is. But once that becomes available, yeah, that would be powerful. I think that would be really cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, I really like this idea of sort of crowdsourcing the ideas for the templates, because 9 times out of 10 somebody raises something, a use case, and everyone else who didn't realize they needed it suddenly puts their hand up and says, "Oh yeah, I could do with that as well."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because from where else would we take ideas, right? Other from our users, right?
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense. And to give you one example, we had one guy, which Julian noticed, that was asking basically, guys, do you know a tool that does the duplication, right? And our reaction to that was to actually build a custom action that we promoted to platform action. So now everybody has that action that incorporates the entire business of a SaaS tool that this guy was using in his company, and we did it in less than 20 hours.
Actually, you did. You built it.
Yeah.
Very modest. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah, again, it goes back to the idea, the stuff you were talking about, where you were saying we're building Precisio with Precisio, and I guess as you progress, you're uncovering more and more use cases, more and more problems that you can very easily solve, and it must be really satisfying to be able to solve those problems in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, it is.
So, assuming that I wanted to get myself set up on Precisio, what am I looking at? Is this a web-based application? Is it a desktop, or both maybe? And how might I get started?
It's web-based. It's not desktop-based. It's not both. So in order to create an account, just go to Procesio.com. You have there an option to create a free account, and it will be free forever, and you will get on monthly basis 2,000 actions per month. So that's why it's monthly basis. And you can have that forever. So it's not limited. It's not for a certain period of time. And you can use Procesio to automate your tasks. And if you stay beneath that limit, you can use it forever. Yeah, and for sure, if you grow your automation, you will need a paid account. And at a certain point, you will be able to also create workspaces if you get the development plan, for example, if you're a company, and you will be able to also create processes and cooperate with your users.
Fantastic. And so that free plan, does that cover all the actions inside Precisio, or is it only a certain?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no limitation whatsoever in Procesio on the free plan besides the number of actions that you execute. So it's very important, the actions that you execute, because you can have unlimited number of processes with unlimited number of actions. It only counts what you execute, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I really like that, this idea that you can give people lots of flexibility and an ability to test things out. And I guess also, do you find yourselves doing any professional service work? I mean, does anyone approach you and say, we want this specific process built, can you build it for us? Or is it largely a do-it-yourself sort of operation?
It's there are a lot of people that ask, and a lot of people that want us to help, and for sure we will help. But the core of our business is to license our technology, right? And we have partners with whom we work. And if a certain client needs more help that we cannot provide for free, then we are inviting one of our partners to join in and help this customer to use the Procesio technology. And I wanted to add another aspect that you also noticed, the fact that the consumption-based strategy in pricing our technology, it's actually very important for us because it's aligned with the core values that we have. Basically, consumption is our North Star. So why did we put the North Star consumption? Because we can see that correlates to the value that we bring to our users. So basically, we want to be paid as the users use more our technology, because that means that we bring more value to them. Otherwise, they would not use our technology.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic, because you would hope that the revenue that well, the costs that they're saving as a result of using your software means that they're able to then go further and commit more, which is fantastic. It's a win-win scenario for sure. And it's one very close to my heart, is the democratization of automation. This idea that it doesn't have to be something that some far off entity has to do for you. It's something that anybody can do, and it sounds like Procesio is enabling that. So I'm looking forward to trying it out. I'm going to take a look at it.
Yeah, please do. And reach out if you get stuck or anything, or if you.
I'm sure I will.
Yeah,
I'll be in touch, Julia. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
So obviously, as we just said, they've got a free version. So it's procesio.com. That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really interesting to talk to you about Procesio and about your take on the automation industry. Lots to cover. I hope you'll join me again in the future. And again, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for inviting us. For sure, we will be at your other shows.
Fantastic. And until next time, join us again for some more RPA talk on the RPA show. Take care.